All right. Hello and welcome everybody to the Game Dev Show. I'm here with Uri, Powell, and Andrew today to talk about, Unity, game development, and all of the things that we haven't discussed in the last couple weeks. So welcome everybody. Welcome everybody that's watching, and welcome my co-hosts, and thank you all for coming here. So hello everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, hello.
Before we get started, I wanted to mention just a couple of quick links down below. I put a link for the Humble Bundle for Nature Manufacturer. There's an amazing, crazy list of stuff. I think you just click on it, you see it all. There's a ridiculous amount of stuff for, what is it, $30 on that bundle, or $35?
Yeah.
Yeah, $30. Go grab it. Go check it out. And then I also linked the Ultimate Game Dev course down there. We have, I think, 20 or 30 seats left in it. If you're interested in that, go check it out. The link is right at the top of the description. So I guess I wanted to start off, well, first, do you guys have anything interesting or important that you wanted to announce or mention before we get started?
Anybody got any secrets they want to share?
No, not today.
No.
That was close though.
All right, well then let's move on to the stuff that's been happening lately. So I assume everybody who's watching probably knows that Unite was earlier this week, and some people got to attend in person. I was planning to, but got too sick and couldn't fly or do really anything else. So I kind of missed out, but hopefully the people that went there had fun. Did you get to attend in person? Weren't you on a panel or something, Andrew?
I wasn't on a panel. I did get to attend in person though. I trucked out to the San Francisco, and I thought you were going to be in San Francisco if you had been able to go.
I was going to be in one of the two, either Montreal if I got my passport in time, which I did, or San Francisco if I didn't. But then I, of course, wasn't. They wouldn't let me on a plane the way I looked.
Well, I was able to be in the San Francisco location for that, so that was neat.
Nice. I heard a lot of people had a lot of fun up in the Montreal one too. So I felt bad that I missed out. But so that event went on, and there was a lot of news, I think, or at least there was a lot of content. I haven't even gone through all of the sessions because they released quite a few. It was like 3 per hour and throughout the whole day. So I wanted to just talk about the big takeaways from it, the interesting stuff that you guys saw, the cool things, or if there's anything you guys are interested in, also what people are interested in chat too. Kind of curious if anybody saw anything really awesome at Unite that you think we should talk about, or you think everybody should know about. Drop comment in there and let us know. So anybody want to start with whatever the coolest thing they saw was, or most interesting thing?
I guess I'll start, because there was one thing that really grabbed both mine and Warped Imaginations, David's eye. It wasn't on the keynote, but Unity has a new tool in the pipeline for AI assisted posing, and that lets you set up scenes and test animations extremely quickly. It is hands down the most exciting thing I've seen in the Unite presentations list. So I wanted to bring that up because, first off, if you've ever dealt with animations, Unity is not a power tool for animating, even though it has the animation rigging package and it has all its inverse kinematics tools, and they've gone through heaps and leaps in what was there compared to what was there before. This new tool kicks all of that out of the park, and it's also looking to be a separate Win application entirely. So you could probably just use it for general animation. And it has physics support. And the most impressive thing about it was that at one point they had the ability to just select any image based in reality, like somebody doing a pose, and it would make the mannequin in the 3D software actually use that pose, which is insane because now Google essentially lets you do all the keyframing you ever want. You don't have to start moving a limb like 2 centimeters up or down, and it looks kind of off compared to what you wanted, like a discount version of the real animation you want. This is insane.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So just take the picture, pull it in, and then it will map your character to that pose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Like kind of tools I need.
Yeah, and they also have like a list of props you can just throw into the scene. They showed like taking a mannequin, putting a chair down, making the mannequin sit. It took physics into account to make it like sit properly. Then they put the HDRP demo human that was walking with that crow, and they just dropped it into the scene as well. And they made them like look at each other. They made the HDRP person hold the mannequin's hand, and they even put a dog, and they made everybody look at each other. And it took like 3 minutes total. It was insane.
Does anybody happen to know the name of that thing? They can look it up.
They didn't give it an official tool, but they did have a title for it. It's authoring character poses with AI on the Unite talks list.
Okay, authoring character poses with AI.
Yes.
So put that in the description. I'll see if I can find the link and drop that down there. That sounds like a cool one. I don't know if I saw that. I saw you guys talking about it, but I don't think I actually saw the video.
So the reason I was talking about it is because I didn't watch Unite on time, because I was actually watching Unreal Fest, which was happening around the same time. And David started talking about it in the GameDev shows ever. And from my own outsider perspective, not having seen the tool, I said it sounded like a discount version of Cascadeur, which was a wrong statement by me. But for those who don't know it, Cascadeur is available right now, and it's a great animation tool that uses the same principles, letting you use AI assistants to create physically correct animations. And then on top of that, they have really accurate physical simulation tools, so that every animation you do looks physically accurate. And they let you correct things and see your trajectories and do ballistics, and it's fantastic. They also do a ton of secondary animations, and they guarantee that you can outflow whatever you want. It's a tool that I've been messing with a lot lately.
That's this one right here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this before either, so this is all new to me.
One of my animators I work with uses this from time to time for our animations. So she was very excited when she first stumbled upon it as well.
Yeah. One of the biggest things about it is that it makes it extremely easy to make like animations with impact that don't look like they are wrong. Like you feel they are just right. They feel well, they work well. And if you have like complex cloth physics, you can actually give them weights and let that assist you in making them feel proper. Using secondary bone animation, of course.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, that sounds interesting. So animation was the key. I mean, I'm not too surprised that you were into some animation. To be honest, like perfect, good animations that look crazy seems like right up your alley. So that's pretty awesome. Was there anything else that really stood out for you, Yara?
There were a few smaller and nice things, but I think I'll let the others talk, and we can reach them naturally as we talk about the keynote.
Sure. Andrew, Powell, either one of you guys want to jump in?
I unfortunately did not get. I saw the keynote, and I saw part of the fireside chat, but the audio where I wasn't in the room itself, and the audio was very hard to hear, so I didn't really get much of that at the end of the day. And in the middle of the day, I ended up networking, talking to people who I hadn't seen in a long time that I was very happy to see, and having to do day job stuff, which took up a few hours as well, unfortunately. So, I didn't get to see.
You're still looking for all the cool stuff, trying to find out what it is.
Maybe this weekend I'll get to actually watch stuff. But that's the benefit of everything being recorded, is that you don't really have to see it live. You can benefit later, and I think that's what I'm gonna have to do on the weekends.
Yeah, I'm still catching up myself too. I watched a few of the sessions live, or live-ish, and then I'm still trying to watch as many as I can as fast as I can. But with a lot of babies, it gets difficult.
Yeah, that's understandable. I do want to point out, though, Andrew, you said something very important. The Unite is entirely recorded. You can go up to the Unite site. They have a special portal for it, and they have a list of all the presentations, and you can sign into your schedule, not schedule, agenda. You can put them on your agenda and see whatever you want, and then just hop between them. And all of them are pretty great. I've taken notes on every single one I've seen, and I've seen quite a bit for now. There is also the Unreal Fest, which is available entirely on their YouTube channel for Unreal. And that also has a ton of really great stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out after I finish my Unite ones. Was there a lot of in the Unreal one? Do you know? You've been watching it a bit. Is it all like super technical Unreal specific stuff, or is it more generic like GDC where they talk about general game development topics and then some are Unreal related?
They had both. In fact, they actually did a bit of the generic game dev stuff on the keynote, or rather the opening of the Unreal Fest. They had an Xbox presenter talking about how to make communities safe and how to create good environments for games, empowering ones. So that was like in the middle of the opening stage, which was really nice.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like when they have a mix on those, especially if I'm not using the tech all the time regularly anymore. Like it makes it a lot more relevant because I can see it. You can kind of figure out what I'm going to do with it. But I wanted to let me pop this back up real quick one more time. The agenda for the Unite one. Was there anything in this list of talks that anybody thinks or that you thought everybody should go to? You're right. And I'm gonna hold on a second. I'm gonna pop that down. Make Dave big.
Why would you just kick me off with a massive picture? Like, why would you do that to me? I mean,
I wanted everybody to know you were coming in here. I didn't want it to just be like, oh, Dave appeared. Dave is here.
Before we move on with that, the first image you put up for this YouTube at the very beginning today was you lying on a bed, and I was like, hang on, I didn't read the text, I just saw that, and I was like, is Jason starting an OnlyFans page? Everything's going.
You haven't seen that before? You haven't seen his OnlyFans?
You're not subscribed?
No, I'm not subscribed to your OnlyFans page yet. I will not get subscribed to your OnlyFans page. It's disturbing.
Your microphone is cutting out and acting weird there, Dave.
Oh, yeah, hang on a second. It's a new one. There we go. Should be good.
Sounds okay now.
There we go. Yeah,
far more stable.
For some reason, it decides it wants to make me louder and then make me softer, then make me louder, then make me softer. It's weird. But anyway, it's there now. And hopefully it's loud enough. Louder.
Yeah, you sound perfectly fine.
Good. That's what I like. Good English accent coming through loud and proud. Yeah, so...
it's still doing
Where were we?
Well, we were going to look at real quickly the agenda for Unite and see if there was anything that's like a must watch. If you're only going to watch one session or two sessions, was there anything that stood out so far? For me,
your eyes
far,
already
was the roadmap, but
your eyes stole my thunder and talked about the animation already. I feel really bad about that.
Oh, come on, you can talk about it. You have a lot of projects you can use it for.
Yeah, so no, the animation thing, I agree. You're right. It was certainly way up there. For anyone who works in AAA or even just the stuff outside of that, like building animations for people in the background, building animations for people that are away, takes so much time to make all that stuff. This will take a lot of it down. Some of it can go straight into production. Some of it you'll just do a cleanup. If you've got characters that are doing animations in a set room, like a guy's on a console and then he moves all around to the other one and he talks to the commander and she's doing this and that. Having those positions and moving them all around takes a lot of time to just fill in all the blank details. And then, so this will be there and then you have your animator clear it up. It's going to save tons of time. And for people out there that don't have animators, this will get you most of the way there. You know, if you're an indie and you just want to have people running around and stuff, you're in a sniper up in a watchtower and you just got people running around on the ground. This is going to produce production level quality animations for you. It's a great tool. I'm looking forward to it. Outside of that, the editor GUI stuff, they started to really dig into, and they had a lot more demos, and they talked about the massive amount of samples projects they had up. That is a must watch as well, even if you're not a tools programmer, because this GUI stuff is now runtime and editor. And I feel like a lot of times when they've talked about it, everybody's gone, it's for editor tools. Nobody really cares, apart from tools programs like myself. But it's now your runtime GUI as well and your editor GUI. And the nice thing is them showing, we've built this custom inspector using these new editor tools, and I'm just going to throw it into the runtime for a debug session on the actual runtime engine. You're like, that's awesome. That saves so much time. The amount of time, and we've all done it. You build a tool, and then you're like, I need this to be on a debug like menu that I can have in my game. And it looks terrible because you spend so much less time doing that. Being able to just grab and drop and put them elsewhere is a big bonus from that standpoint.
So do you think you're going to start using the UI toolkit for your UI
I've
stuff
already been
regularly?
using. I'm already using. So if you watch my channel, a lot of it's using the old tool set, the old GUI layout, editor GUI layout, and all the rest, because of the fact that it's just been that way for a long time. And a lot of the stuff I put into the videos is me taking my current tool set and just going, I need another video, pull that out, and I'll just clean that up and throw that into a video, because it's because I have a job to do, so I can't produce new videos every week.
You find something interesting, you use it, right?
Exactly. So a lot of it's using that. But for instance, I've got a video coming up next week, which is on overlays and how to produce overlays for creating dynamic tools for things you're going to create. And that overlay is using some of the new UI toolset. Now, I'm not going into the CSS yet and all the rest of it, but I will be doing videos on that and how you can quickly adapt the data you're trying to show and make it very presentable. Because a lot of people's inspectors are ropey as hell, because they're like, I don't want to use this markup layout in C# to produce this crazy dynamic data set viewer, this presentation layer. So they cheap on it. But now it's a lot easier to do it. And also your designers could do it. You don't need to have a coder dedicated. I mean, back in the AAA game industry, if you started in the game industry as a programmer, a lot of times you got assigned to be the UI programmer. And that would be one of your first jobs, because you couldn't mess anything up. You know, it was very unlikely to destroy the game. Well, you can mess things up, obviously.
Wrong. I've told you the story about how the UI killed Vanguard, right?
Well, yeah, true. Okay. Outside point. More QA.
The UI can't kill it. It can't do anything.
But it's less. So it's not as complicated to work on. But a lot of games suffer from the fact their UI isn't very well animated. It's not dynamic. It looks... And indie games are the worst for it, where you open up some of them and it's like literally just a stacked menu that fades in, fades out, because you run out of time. And I've been an indie dev and I've had those menus, because I'm like, I used to have a UI programmer when I was in AAA. Now I'm an indie dev and it's just me.
Add
you just run
features
out
to
of
the
time.
game or make that UI a little flashier.
Exactly. But now with these things, you can turn around to your designer, because I had a designer at the time working on the game. Now I could just turn around to them and said, you know, okay, you've got this whole really cool idea for a UI that we're not doing if I'm doing it. We're doing it if you're doing it. So now they could just animate that stuff and they can create it all with rich text, and we can mark it all up and have it going with CSS. And again, you can copy and paste that stuff. I mean, if you've been working on Unity for long enough, you'll probably have an editor library, an editor GUI library, where you have all your editor helpers and all the rest. I do, most people do. Now you don't need to worry about that, because you can create elements using the CSS and this markup, and then you can copy and paste it across.
And one of the biggest benefits is also that you mentioned, you don't actually need to do it yourself, because there is the UI builder. You can just slap some elements on, and now you know their paths, and you can do whatever you want in the code, and you don't care anymore. You can just immediately delegate that to somebody else on the team. That is one of the things that I love the most about the UI toolkit, even though I'm really skeptical about it for game usage. And I was really glad that on the keynote, they said they are still working on real time. I really do think it has major advantages. The ability to construct the UI with just the code and just let it take whatever form the designer wants. You don't even need to know it. You just need to know what they want to have, and you just code that side. And the style can also be taken across and shared. And it's just a lot of good development.
So you both recommend getting into it and trying it out?
Of course.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Actually, Andrew shared a few weeks back a new site from Unity, the Foundations for UI, and I linked that in our private chat for everybody to see, which is really great to understand UI fundamentals, just to become a good UI developer. Just doesn't even matter if it's Unity or not. This is good stuff.
Such a neat page too. It's dense. And it's not a scripting doc. It links to scripting docs, which is helpful, but it gives that nice breakdown of, how much padding to have between each section if you want to match the actual Unity UI, if you want your editors to feel natively part of Unity. It's so thorough.
Yeah, and it's not just so far. It also addresses real-world, high-end development for UI in general outside of Unity. Because one of the things that is right there on the main page, if you scroll down for the 4 things on the line, is the Figma UI toolkit, which is actually one of the best standards for UI designers. It's a separate tool. They construct the UI there, and you can basically, because of the similarities, transfer most of it into Unity. It's insane.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And how about Unity building good tutorials and pages around this stuff? About bloody time.
Yeah. To be fair, the Unity UI, as it stands, UGUI, that we've had for years, does have a good documentation page, and it has a lot of features, and it was constructed with games in mind. This is, in general, for both tools and games. It's a bit behind. It doesn't have feature party just yet, but it is fantastic.
The funny thing about it, though, is when you start looking at it, I mean, the classes, I mean, you've got GUI dot whatever, you've got editor GUI dot whatever, you've got GUI layout dot whatever, you've got editor GUI layout dot whatever. It's been a mess for so many years of them just adding little bits on. Now, they'll never get rid of it because so many games are built with it, but it would be nice now that they can just basically rely on this and teach people this rather than the other stuff. And you can still interchange some of that older work into this. It can still have elements that look at code that have those GUI layouts and all the rest. So you don't have to get rid of all your old editors.
Yeah.
Definitely cool.
So in regards to that, there was a talk in the agenda that is extending the Unity editor with custom tools using the UI toolkit. That one is a complete introduction from both talking about what the UI toolkit is, making something simple with it for debugging purposes in your game, and then bringing it into real time and even using the vector drawing method to get a visualization of, say, a DPS chart where you have like a circle and who does the most. It's great. It's like 5 lines of code and they immediately snap it like that and everybody can use it. You don't even need to know or style it. You don't need to place it manually in your code just where the artist wants it, because it's on a UI element and it can fit wherever. Perfect.
Interesting. Yeah, I've got to get in there. I haven't played with UI Toolkit in a while. I'm going to dive in this week or next week, I guess. Sounds super interesting now. It seems like it's finally getting there. Anybody know the answer to the question that came up, though, about whether or not it works in world space yet? They said they've seen it help for 2D, but not sure about VR.
So I do know the answer, and the answer is it does not yet, sadly.
Okay.
It was on their plan list, but I don't know the progress on it at all. Also, if we are talking about where the feature parity lacks, currently the UI toolkit does not support custom shaders, which means you can't do the fancy flowing effects or flames unless you manually animate it and just have it as a sprite sheet, which is an option. I don't love it, but it is an option.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm sure that'll be there soon if it was on their list. And then James asked if they're open for questions. You are free to ask questions whenever, and I will gladly pop them up if they make sense, and we might have an answer to them. So, Andrew, you had an asset or a talk on here too that you pointed out. Do you want to talk about that one real quick?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but this is so the UI one is on my list of things. The animation one now is on my list of things. It wasn't before because I didn't know about it, but now it is. But the lighting one is the one when I looked through briefly that I want to see. Yes. Yeah. And I think during Unite itself, I saw that screenshot on a screen somewhere in the Unity office, and I don't know if they were just displaying the talk. I think it was during lunch or something, but I noticed it then, and I thought to myself, whatever that is, I need to watch that. The brief moment I saw was talking about mass placement of probes, so things just work, and I was like, that sounds right.
Yeah. So I can pop your bubble and make it a little less enthusiastic, but it was a great, fantastic talk. So about lighting. First off, in the keynote, they had a section dedicated for talking about URP, HDRP, where they are at, and what they are doing right now to improve on where they are. And one of the things that came up on the keynote was presenting the new sky system and the clouds and volumetric fog and adaptive light volumes, adaptive pro volumes, sorry, for lighting that work in conjunction with all of that for HDRP. And to get pointedly clear about what the adaptive probe volumes are, specifically in Unity up to today, you have light probes. Light probes are a point of optimization for lighting, where you put a single point in space, it calculates whatever the light is supposed to be at that point, you bake it in, and then everything else can use that instead of trying to calculate the lighting information for itself. Probes are a very good optimization technique, but there is a problem in which you have to place them everywhere. And you have to pick the strategic points that are good, because just throwing probes everywhere, both clutters your scene, is annoying to manage. They get in the way of the selections for everything, and they don't provide you the best value, because if all the probes near a specific one have the exact same value, you are doing nothing by adding more probes. So what Unity says is, well, nobody wants to need to place probes, so let's just make an area that we figure out where the probes should be. And this is the adaptive probe volume. Now, on top of that, they added some extra features, for example, per pixel lighting, because Unity right now, if you use light probes, what it will do is when you are within a selection of light probes, it will interpolate the lighting of your entire character. And that's not exactly how things should look. It doesn't look realistic. So you kind of want all your probes to be rather close, or rather you're going to have something that looks off. Adaptive probe volumes actually let you have per pixel lighting, which is great. It looks way better. But, and this is the big but where I said I'm going to make you slightly less enthusiastic. First off, they are still probes, which means they still bake informations, which means it's not lumen, you aren't getting dynamic lighting. Even though they scrubbed the sunlight in the keynote to make it look like you have a lot of really nice fancy lighting, this is not it. Now, secondly, because they bake lighting, it means you can have a single baking session, or not. You can bake multiple states, but you still have them. And currently, there is no way to blend between them. So if you have a day mode and a night mode, you can only swap. You can't blend. But they did say in the roadmap for 2023 that they are looking into this, which is great. So this is what adaptive probe volumes are, for all to know.
Sounds super handy to me, because light probes are like a pain in the ass. I always use that, I forget the asset that would just auto place them and hoped for the best, because doing it myself, I would just fuck it up.
Yeah, now I do want to bring up the actual talk about the lighting environments with Unity. It was fantastic, and not because of the adaptive pro volumes, but because it covered everything about lighting. It covered exposure, it covered how you should set up your scene, it covered every single technique, including what light map settings actually do for you, how to compare your actual render with, say, path tracing, how do you use ray tracing. The presenter actually went and used all the steps, like a person actually working on a project with nothing and reaching a state where he has path tracing and he can compare it to everything below that.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
definitely
very,
gonna
very
watch
good.
Yeah, that was good talk.
It's definitely
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, not just for games, but for virtual film sets. He was talking about the types of cameras and how this relates to your SLR and all the that stuff's just gold.
Yeah, and they also covered the post-processing involved and what auto exposure actually does for you and what are sensible ranges. And he also showed some neat tips about how, for example, in HDRP, you can right-click on the lighting and choose what light amounts you want, like, for example, a sun, a candle, etc. It's something that not everybody knows is there. So it's like it really helps you quickly set up the scene that you need.
And also mention what platforms you should use each technique on, which also confuses a lot of people, where they're like, can I use ray tracing on mobile? Well, don't. But he didn't dismiss light maps. He went into light maps and why they're still very beneficial. And yeah, it was great. Yeah, definitely jump into that talk.
Yeah.
Even if
Did
you're
they
not-
talk
not
about
using Unity.
the URP HDRP combination stuff in this one too? Or because I know they talked about that a little bit in the roadmap and I think the keynote, but anybody know more about that?
So I investigate all of that because I absolutely hate European HDRP right now. Not in the sense that I hate them for what they are. I hate them for what they could be. So on the keynote, they talked specifically about how URP and HDRP right now for most developers are a big choice. You start up a new Unity project and you are immediately presented with a choice of 3D Core, 3D URP, or 3D HDRP. You don't know what that means. You just got into Unity. So it's a big choice that you make really early on. It affects all the choices that you'll make visually later down the line, and you can't easily swap. On the keynote, they made a statement where they are investigating making URP and HDRP usable within the same project. And they already have some projects out there, like the Lego one, that have two versions of the project for URP and HDRP so that they can reach all the platforms and use all the best tools for each of them. For mobile, URP, obviously, because of the performance. For higher end, you can use ray tracing and have really fancy Lego pieces. The problem with URP and HDRP these days is that you have to author everything separately. You can't have the same texture maps. You can have the same processing options. You can't have all the lighting calculations and shadow supports in the same way. And because you have to offer everything twice, it's not convenient. So having feature parity where you can just use the same texture for both, for example, or just see it in the same inspector instead of having two projects open and making sure that every change that you make in the first one matches the change in the other one is a huge quality of life improvement. That said, it isn't still what could be the best version of Unity because you still have to offer features for these renderers separately. The code is not compatible between URP and HDRP, which is the biggest problem in my own opinion. So that is the status of URP and HDRP from my understanding from their keynote and what I saw in the roadmap to 2023, which I really want to talk about that panel of the agenda, actually. Can we?
Why not? Yeah.
So they had a panel called Understanding Unity's 2023 Roadmap. Now, I immediately chuckled, just like you did, David, a moment ago, because why do you need a video presentation for people to understand your roadmap? If somebody needs to interpret the list of stuff that you say you're going to do, maybe write that better. But the talk itself is actually really, really great. It has a ton, and it has a ton of really good stuff. So can I just go through the bullet points of what I saw that took my interest?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, I wanted to say that I really like when they do the video ones just for being able to do it. I feel like I always see things that I miss in those lists. Whenever I go through the roadmap list, I always miss shit. And then I see it in these little videos. These are other ones. That's how I notice them. So, I'm a terrible reader, though. I think I talked about that earlier this week. Anyway, what were the cool ones in here?
Yeah, so first off, they talked about a lot of performance optimizations, and for programmers, the ability to use MSBuild and NuGet packages. They are investigating making things better for developers across the board, with Unity trying to get to more recent tech, which is great because to this day, Unity is still closed source. We are still relying on packages. We are versions of C# behind. We can't use all the cool, latest, newest, fancy things that are available. So they said that. They also talked about improving editor workflows. For example, prefab replacement. I'm sure every single person here has some tool out there in a project that just swaps prototyping prefabs with higher versions of prefabs down the line. or people reinvent the wheel on that a lot. So hearing that Unity is making their own solution is making me really happy, so that nobody has to reinvent the wheel anymore.
Yeah, I did a video on how to make that editor script because it's like a standalone thing people need. That I saw that too, and that one stood out and it made me laugh. That one, plus there was one other that made me crack up. I'll see if you get to it though.
Okay, they talk about shader variant prefiltering, which only matters if you're an absolute nerd who hates build times. And I absolutely hate build times, because every time you try to make a multiplayer project in Unity right now, you can't open multiple sessions in the same editor. So you have to make a build, and then you have to launch the build multiple times just to test your multiplayer project.
That's
so
why you just
here,
run multiple copies of Unity and
Multiple-
you use the little
no,
sync tool and
no,
it just copies
no.
right over. So much better. Then you can debug on both. You can attach if you need
Sure.
to. There's
No, Jason,
steps.
you write a script that does the build and then launches all these instances.
No, I just
Yeah.
hit play. I just do the code and then I save and then it syncs over to the other one automatically and I just hit play
syncing-
on both.
The syncing is slow. Sometimes it doesn't reload the scenes properly. There's a ton of issues with that. I've tried it. I don't like it. Anyways, smaller build times is fantastic, but it's a segue because they actually talked about something way more interesting in that keynote. Sorry, not keynote. The roadmap to 2023, which is multiplayer play mode.
Yes.
It was super
This is something I've been preaching for years. I've tried to contact the Unity networking developers multiple times about it. They recently had a dev blitz about in the official Unity Discord server, and I brought up that topic, and I think it got like 60 comments down the string, which was far bigger than any other thread, I think. But it was such a great discussion, because this is something I think Unity absolutely needs if you want to offer multiplayer games with it confidently, quickly, and properly. Unreal Engine has an option to just make play mode with 4-player instances, and it just pops instantly. Unity doesn't have that. And the quickest option down the line for Unity right now is about 10 seconds at minimum on a small minimalistic project with just cubes. It's insane. So multiplayer play mode offers you that option. That said, it's still not as quick as what you see in Unreal, and they do have some technical hurdles. It's early in development, but they are really eager to show it to us. So I'm really eager to test it.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. That was.
I mean, one of the reasons they haven't had it in so long is they've been trying to build a network stack for so long as well. Like, the network stack is pretty brand new, and they're now kind of got in far enough that hopefully they're going to stick with this one.
Yeah, but
like the last 4.
Yeah, but the amazing thing about this is it's not even tied to a specific networking stack. It's for the editor itself.
And it's got consoles on every single one, and loads of information you can pull up and profile. Yeah, it's tidy. It's tidy, their new solution.
Yeah, this is like the thing I wished that Dots would have, because I think I mentioned this before, but I've been investigating Dots really heavily because I wanted to use Dots for networking, because they have multiple world simulations. So I figured I can just have multiple worlds and I can swap between them and see what each client is doing. And I can finally have my experience with one editor and all the worlds and debugging everything. And then I got really upset because the hybrid renderer, or rendering for entities these days, doesn't support it. And it's a single line down the documentation on like one of the bottom pages, and I got really upset because I read through everything just to reach that one line. So that was really upsetting. And when I asked them about it for the Dev Blitz, they said that it is not planned for 1.0 just yet. It won't be ready. So I was really holding out for it, because if Unity had that, it could reach the confidence level I have with making multiplayer experiences in Unreal.
Yeah, but I think they've always been a bit behind Unreal with multiplayer stuff, though. Like I'm just glad that they're back at it and actually have a network stack and didn't just abandon it to third parties. I was afraid that was going to happen, that it was just going to be like, oh, no, you have to use third party thing. That's all. So it seems like they're actually pushing it. I'm going to talk to Laurent too, because now I see he's the director of that multiplayer stuff, or whatever it said there. Something on the title there. It seems cool.
Yeah. So multiplayer play mode team, I'm rooting for you.
Oh yeah, I think everybody's probably excited about that. I assume everybody in chat is. I've missed chat, but hopefully people are excited about that part.
Yeah. So there is some discussion going on about shaders, which is actually a really good point about what they are working on. For the 2023 roadmap, they've mentioned a new concept called block shaders. Now, if you've ever tried writing shaders in Unity, you know that the text isn't exactly programmer friendly. You have to learn about a lot of hidden macros and what the hell does the matrix in this case mean and why is it flipped sometimes, etc., etc., etc. Not fun. And if you want to make a shader with just a tiny variation, you have to start copying everything and hoping that the one point that you want is going to be slightly different and nothing is going to break. And you can't stack features easily. So block shaders, by Unity's terminology, are going to be small pieces of code like methods that you can stack building blocks and making a shader with all the features that you want. It's a fantastic concept. It's basically piecemeal surface shaders, and I really hope it goes well. Now, one thing that was really exciting about this is that Jason Booth, who has an asset on the asset store called Better Shaders, is actually already doing just that. So they already have somebody who's really engaged, and I think he's talking a lot in the forum discussion for block shaders. So you can already have a version of it that works by him from the asset store if you want to open that up. But otherwise, they are working on something that you can use. On that note, Unreal Engine has something really similar in their own Unreal Fest, which is the strata materials. Just going over it quickly, it's a similar concept. You can build your shaders in their shader graph equivalent and connect things, but they use BSDF nodes like Blender, which is amazing because Blender has so many good features for its node setup. So just a really great news for shaders across the board for every game engine. I'm happy for it.
That sounds cool. Be able to make some Uber shaders out of it. I'm terrible at it, but
yeah, it's actually the opposite of Uber shaders because now you can piecemeal the features that you need, and you don't need an Uber shader that has everything just to get what you want.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I guess it's just slapping them together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
slapping
neat.
the feature. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that kind of irked me about the roadmap to 2023 is that they talked about the UI toolkit as well. And they talked about a lot of really great things there. And then they said they have a production-ready project for UI games using the UI toolkit to show developers how they can do it. But on the keynote, they said they are still working on real time. So which is it? Is it production ready or is it still not good enough?
It sounds like it's probably like 2022 production ready, like not
it's alpha,
LTS
yeah.
production ready, but like like that in between.
It's ready to go out so people can find the problems with it.
You can use it, but it might break.
Yeah.
About the Unity should hire him, but they probably can't afford him at this point. I'm not sure about that, but regarding Unity hiring people, if you have been paying attention to the asset store lately, 2 assets recently became free, and they're really good assets. The kinematic character controller and the rival dots character controller, both by the same maker, are now free and by Unity Technologies, because for dots they decided that they want people to have an immediately accessible good character controller, so they acquired Rival, which is basically the asset that everybody recommended. So the other asset, the kinematic character controller, is basically the character controller most people recommended to each other, and it was pretty costly, and it was really great. The support has since declined because the author took interest in dots and made the character controller there 10,000 times faster looking. He has like a video where you can just see 10,000 character controllers at once, 60 FPS, no issues whatsoever. It's fantastic. So now he has his own character controller with dots, and you can immediately access that. If you open a new dots project right now, you can download it and you can immediately use it. Fantastic.
That is perfect. It's something Unity's needed for a while. A good character controller. Hopefully, they just make the kinematic character controller even easier, so you don't have to grab it as a package, like or so that it's part of a general character package or something soon. I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
But I want to share something real quick that popped up for me, because before I forget about it, it was the one thing that just made me crack up. And it was right in here with the input system. Did you guys see this part?
Making it easier for people.
With the new input system, and they're talking about the big problem that I have with it. It's like I don't use it in videos because I don't want to have to spend 20 minutes explaining how to set it up every single time. Now they're doing a new high level API, and I was cracking up when he was like, we're going to make it a lot easier to set up, like a lot easier, because they're getting rid of all of the setup steps, so it just fucking works out of the box, which I think will be great. I think it'll probably push everybody over to it, because it's the thing that keeps it out of videos, and the thing that keeps it out of like going into a default thing like that where I would show it off. It's because you have to explain it constantly. You have to do all this setup. So I think that was really cool and it excited me.
I created a few input system variations and then put them in my library. And now every time I want to create a certain game, I just pull in that particular input system and then just use that. So I don't have to keep going back into it. I go back in to tweak things every now and again, but I just have them ready to go. Because it does take a little bit of time to set up and get just right as well, especially if you're in VR. Pain in the ass, because the amount of controllers, amount of different things. But yeah.
It's actually kind of ironic because on the keynote they showed the basketball game that was using the the XR interaction toolkit, which it's itself an acronym. They have an acronym for an acronym. I still can't get over that. But they showed using the input system for that, and they said it was a breeze. So I'm surprised to hear it's a pain in VR.
It's just the fact it's so many layers, and it's going to the point that it's not a pain for me or probably Jason to set up. It's when you're creating a video to demonstrate how to use it. The first 20 minutes of your video are setting it up to show how to use it. That's why you don't see any VR developers really digging in on YouTube, digging into how to do the input system, even though I know I've had several requests from people. And that's how you know it's a pain, when you get several requests. And it's all newbie stuff that people are asking about it. They don't want to dig into the documentation because it's something they've not really given great tutorials on. Unity. It's one of the ones that's quite annoying. Most of their new systems they bring in, they have a tutorial page. They have lots of stuff about it. The input system's been a bit vague on some of that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But
they still hide the best feature in the input system, which is insane to me. So basically, you can make the generated classes for the input system. When you have the input actions asset, you can click generated C# class, and they tell you that you can make a new instance, and then you can just bind everything to that. Okay, cool. How do I make this work with the player input system? Because specifically the multiplayer player input components. And they never explain how you actually do that. There is exactly one method in the entire goddamn package that accepts the generated classes that you use. And if you use that, you're going to get perfectly usable local multiplayer with all the custom actions that you want, with generated classes, never having any typos or loose binding. It's insanely good. And I'm extremely upset that it's not immediately at the top of, if you want to press the generate C# class button, also do this. It's going to save so much headache for so many people.
There was a question that popped up earlier, Dave, that I wanted to ask you about, but I can't seem to find it. It was about the Quest Pros. Have you played with one of those yet? Have you done any development on it? Or have you seen them? I tried to order it multiple times. My order just kept getting canceled.
You won't get one now.
What's that?
You won't get one now. They're like sold out through the roof.
Yeah, I pre-ordered them like 5 times on release day, and an hour later it would cancel my order saying there was a problem with it. I tried like all my different cards, and it screwed up, drove me nuts. But I was curious if you've played with it at all. Is it actually an interesting device? Or
so I watched all the keynotes on it. I spoke to some people I know about it, and then I decided not to bother. And here's why: for the things that I'm working on currently, I don't need it. At the moment, with the motion simulator and the really high-end graphics, I'm using the Index, and it's wired, and it has to be into a really good graphics card and a really good computer to be able to produce the level I want. And it's going to be in a hard computer anyway, because the computer's running the motion simulator, so it has to run like multiple Arduinos, multiple servos, and all the rest of it. So I needed a hard computer. So, and you're seated, so your wired experience is perfectly fine because you don't even notice because it's a seated experience. With the current clients I have that are working on XR training, some of those are still using wired because of the level of fidelity they need from the headsets as well. So I haven't needed to go there. They're all still using indexes. For the ones that are using Quest 2s, a lot of the stuff they're using is soft skills and stuff, and they just don't need to go to a pro level at the moment. So I haven't had any clients yet request me to create for Quest Pro, and none of the equipment I'm using, because all the equipment I use is custom hardware for guns and all the rest of it. A lot of it's wired simply because it has to be that way. So I haven't. I think it looks like a good headset. I think it's going to make a difference in the enterprise space, less so for the games. And that's where Meta is now looking at with their headsets. They've seen everybody else approaching this space, and they've said, yeah, games are still making more money than anybody else. But look at the amount of money being made in VR training, in XR training, in AR training. That money is really coming in from big companies. I mean, a couple of my clients are like Fortune 5 companies that they're really heavy duty ones that are really buying into this because it's saving them a ton of money. And they've looked at that and they've gone, okay, Facebook for Business was awful. And I don't mind saying that, they'll probably hate me for it, but Facebook for Business was a mess. IT services at these big companies didn't want to touch it. They're like, it's got Facebook on the front of it. We're not logging that into our IT infrastructure for this multi-billion-dollar company. So it was a nightmare. Now they've moved to Meta. They're changing that approach. They've changed the approach to logins and all the rest. They've seen that they need to add analytics and all the other stuff. So they've got the back-end software. Now they're looking at the headset at the front there and say, right, okay, we need pass-through. We need an AR, VR mix that can switch. So now they're looking at the Quest. And that's why it's priced that way as well. Everybody's looking at it and going, oh, it's priced well out of the reach of people. It's not for gamers. You could play games in it, and games are going to look and play incredibly in it, but it's not for games. That's why there's still the skew for the Quest 2. Because
I figured it was more like HoloLens targeted at the enterprise stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you look at some of the money that Microsoft's made off the HoloLens because HoloLens is just enterprise. And that's why Magic Leap is now enterprise, is because they've seen that as far as AR is concerned, a lot of people, when they look at AR, they think tablet, mobile, I'm doing this. It's from Niantic. They're talking about Lightship and all the rest. They're looking at that. But in the enterprise space, they're looking at pass-through headsets. They're looking at glasses, AR glasses and stuff like that, because the sort of information they need to get across is good enough in those headsets at the moment. So yeah, Meta has seen the angle, and now they're going for it. So no, personally, I'm not approaching it yet. That will probably change next year, because I expect a client will turn around and say, we need the latest and greatest. And can you look at that and concept something for some crazy thing they want to do next?
And Mr. Bubbles asked about the VR feature they showed. What was that? I don't remember this anymore. He asked if you found it interesting. The first announcement was a VR feature, but I don't know what the feature was.
I missed the first part of the keynote because it was really early, and I
don't remember a VR thing in there myself. So.
I don't. So if he wants to come in and ask more about that, it might jog my memory. But I don't. I think I got a little bit the animation thing. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to save so much money. So I love that the animation thing just stuck in my head, and the editor stuff, because I'm a tools programmer, that stuck in my head. And then one thing we haven't mentioned is the profiling. Like they had a whole talk on profiling, and if you want to take your games development to the next level, getting good with profilers and learning all the stuff around the profiler that's there. I've even been around AAA people that don't even use the current profiler in 2021 to its full ability. They use it, but they don't use everything about it. They don't write code into they use profiler to debug. They don't use Profiler to optimize. And some of the stuff that this talk was focused on was the optimization you can achieve in the Profiler rather than using the Profiler as a debugging tool, because that's where everybody's gone with it. Everybody's like, oh, you're debugging, you've got a problem with your game, it's running slow, hit the Profiler. And it's like, it's always been seen as that's the thing that happens when you've done it. But really, you should be using it more in your code. It's like when people talk about writing unit tests in your games. It's great and all. Personally, I don't do a lot of unit tests because I have a lot of other stuff testing it. But looking at the Profiler, you can actually write statements into the Profiler to then spit out into the Profiler, this is how much this costs, this is how much this costs, this is how much this costs. So if you're ever wondering, I've written something, I wonder if it's expensive to do this, find so-and-so in the update statement. Don't do that. But if you're doing that, then you can use the Profiler to see how badly you're doing.
Yeah, I like they added a bunch to the memory profiler in that one too. I actually watched that one.
So actually about that, on the agenda, there are multiple talks discussing profiling. There is the 20 tips in 20 minutes. It goes over profiling, also links you to ebooks that are great for it. There
Great
is
video.
there is the making Alba building a performant open world. That one is also great. It dives into performance optimization really early on. They explain a lot of advanced concepts there. They use a bunch of tools. They even show you how to use Xcode well, which is a great debugger. They also had on the keynote, as you said, a portion dedicated to it. And in the 2023 roadmap, they also showed some improvements they have for it. Customizing the profiler is also a really interesting topic because I myself have not considered it, but in Terraria, I actually do quite a lot of that because we don't have a dedicated profiler. So we have to measure a lot of custom things. But yeah, it learning to use the tools that you have to make your application better early on and keeping check of the changes and having a consistent way to do it is really important. And the Alba video, the building a performant open world, they show an exemplary case of how you should do it right. They made a build that is literally there to benchmark your game in different locations and give you the information that you need in a consistent way, so it's not down to users who are inconsistent.
Right. So does it just do like a test after each build and give you the frame rate in the different spots so you know if there's a delta at all?
They literally have a script that like puts a character, rotates the camera, gets the numbers, goes to the next area, rotates the camera, gets the numbers. It's simple and it's effective. It's not something complicated that you are now scaring developers from doing. Making a script that does that takes like 10 lines of code.
Yep. Yeah. That is cool. Yeah, we used to do that in a lot of the AAA games. So there would be automatic tools to do exactly this on a build just to make sure, and then you could fail the build if for some reason they failed, which was rare, but every now and then somebody fucks up and you make a little mistake and it breaks the whole thing. Don't realize it. And
it was a pain to make all the profiling stuff happen in your custom engines for your AAA was an absolute pain. You had somebody dedicated to half of it. It'd be the graphics guy. Usually,
we were writing custom ones for the servers for the games, and then having a custom server UI that only the GMs could see to dig into the profiling data.
Yeah, we had one on. I had a Team City server that would literally take the builds from when we were in Indy, and we were trying to really optimize our builds. You'd do a build, and it would just chuck it out to Team City, and then it would report back. Okay, we've been playing the game's been playing automatically with all this sort of stuff, and these are the problems that we're finding, and this is the profile of it as well. But then that was using Unity, and that didn't have a profiler back then. Well, I don't think it did back like free or whatever Unity.
Yeah, I had to do mine
version free
for the actual game. Like you had to log into the game, hop on and play, and you could profile while people were playing on the servers to see what the hell was going on. It was off by default, but you could enable it. Andrew, I know you've got to go soon. You didn't have that much time, so I wanted to just jump over and see if you got any extra stuff or last things from Unite that you think people should check out before you have to head out.
No, just don't check out Unite. It's a reminder for myself because life gets busy and these talks are an hour long at least. So it can be like, oh, there's so many I want to look at, but I would say line them up and just get through them over the next few weeks. And when you have time, that's what I need to do, and I need to keep myself honest on that. So
That's what I'm doing. I lay in bed and relax and watch them as soon as I get
Yeah.
some quiet time.
some of them might be good for listening to as well, I would bet. Yeah, some of them you might not need to actually watch all the time, so maybe go for a walk and listen to it on the walk.
I've been reading and listening to them in 3 times the speed, and also watching them in like tiny windows. And for one of them, I actually managed to open the second one because it was like so slow that I could just multi-listen. It was insane.
Yeah, they don't have a
Brain is
speed.
weird.
They don't have a speed control on the viewer on
Yeah.
the actual Unite site,
Yeah.
and it drove me nuts because I'm like, this guy's
So-
monotone. He's slow, like I talk.
Yeah.
And you could, if you watch my videos, you could speed me up to 2 times, and then it actually sounds properly.
2 times. There is a video.
Calm down to that.
Most browsers have a video speed controller that you can use even in the Unite specific one, and also the videos are going on YouTube, so you could have that if you wait a bit. So I just wanted to say something regarding the profiling in games. In Terraria, we are actually so scared of having performance issues that the game actually has hidden diagnostics windows if you press a certain combination of buttons. And whenever we get a problem that we absolutely can't solve by ourselves, we just ask the user to just open the diagnostics window and take a screenshot. It's so useful, you have no idea. Because one of the things that happens in a game like Terraria, where you have 20 million tiles and you don't know what is happening in the world, and it keeps sending you updates that you don't necessarily need, is that we get some weird case of, say, an item decides that it wants to sync every frame, and it's making another item want to sync every frame, and then you have a bunch of like 3 items spamming like 180 packets per second to all of the users in the server, and you don't know what is going on. Getting to see these diagnostics of, say, how many packets you received of a specific type is really useful.
Yeah, like I said, we've done that. I think about it. I don't want to talk about it too much, but in just about every game I've ever worked on had some secret thing that you could pull up, either to see a little bit of diagnostics and/or to cheat if they were single player games. Like all the single player games have a little cheat menu that if you know the right keys, you can get into.
Now you're reminding me of a good one. So just a quick thing. In Terraria, when the 1.3 update dropped, we added achievements. They weren't in the game before. We just added them. And we were like, great, achievements are in the game. That's fantastic. Suddenly, users started reporting that when they walk, when the character is on the floor and when it's moving, the game crawls to a halt. We didn't know what is going on. It only happened to a portion of the users. If the character jumps, perfect speed. If the character is flying with wings, perfect speed. If the character is using mounts, perfect speed. If the character is on the floor, 0 FPS. We tried to find it for days, and then we finally figured out what happened. Because we added achievements and people wanted to pirate the game, they swapped the internals of how achievement tracking works to save into the hard disk. And every single step they took, because we had an achievement called Marathon Runner that counted that you walked 12 kilometers, I think. Every single step you took, every frame, it would save to disk. And we couldn't figure that out because nothing would say that the game is pirated. And every single time after that we figured that bug out, we just know, oh, this guy is pirating the game.
So I found the solution. Here's the Steam link.
Nice.
A hidden pirate protection program that we didn't even plan.
That is hilarious.
It's
This
not
is
a bug,
bad
it's a
pirating
feature.
is what happened. You got lazy pirates.
It was such a funny find, and it took us months. We were going insane trying to figure out because we had like a bunch of other issues at the time. But yeah, so regarding the keynote, there was not much else to talk about. We basically covered all the important things. They did show a lot of their Unity services, specifically tied around networking and DevOps. They showed more about their cloud building, which all of you should use if you haven't used it yet. Go see what cloud building is. Go start using cloud building. Cloud building is fantastic. Specifically, it's just whenever you make a change to your project, it will go and look at that, say, oh, okay, you made a change. I'm making a build for you. Just give me 15 minutes and you have that available for all of your testers. No custom work of your own involved at all. Like, it's insanely useful. And they had a specific team that says that they can tackle projects that feel like they would need 10 times the users. They are being competitive with them because of cloud building, letting them generate so many builds and letting them iterate very quickly. Because if you have a random person trying to make a build every time. Like, even if you use all the best examples and use David's wonderful video of making an installer for every one of your builds, it's still not going to be as fast as a cloud build that's available immediately without him needing to press the button and sending it to a friend.
Unless you buy a really, really, really quick computer.
You got to go find the guy, the build guy, and go kick him. That used to be me at Sony for a while. People come in and just, hey, can you do a build? Hey, can you do a build? And then eventually I was like, all right, let's automate this. Like, nope, now you just push a button to enable whatever build you wanted. It already happened.
Yeah, it already happens, and you never have to press that again.
And you
so
never
they
have to talk to that person again and request a build. Maybe they just really want to talk to you.
It's even better though, because even if they are sick, you can still keep working, and they don't need to be there to press the build button for you, which is really good, specifically in smaller teams where one person may be the only one who can like have the setup to publish a build, for example, for the testers. You can cut that part out, and then if they are sick, if they have an event, a crisis, whatever, the entire rest of the team can keep working. It doesn't bring development to a halt. Really critical for small teams. They had a push for their multiplayer services, A/B testing, remote config. It's a lot of fancy keywords if you've never heard of it, but it's basically tools that let you immediately change a build without needing to publish something new for users. They don't have to quit the game, reopen. If you just want to rebalance something really quick, they have tools for that. They try to push the services for it. I don't know how well this scales for gigantic projects, like a game with 5,000 items that I'm specifically working on, but it is great specifically for.
I think it
really
scales
early
quite
on.
well. Yeah, I think
Yeah?
they actually scale it quite well. Yeah. We used our own version when I worked at Hutch Games on Smash Cups. We had 1 million odd players, and we basically the game was downloaded 20 odd million times. But we had an A/B testing system that we used, and it was perfectly fine for us to do that. And I feel like this one that they were talking about looks like it scales really well.
Okay, that's great. So they had that. They showed other small services around Unity. They've showcased netcode for game objects for smaller projects, so that even if you are a beginner to Unity and you want to make a multiplayer experience, you can literally just download netcode for game objects, follow a few tutorials, and you are off to the races. You are good to go. And if you want to have matchmaking services, if you want to have relay services so you don't have to connect by IP, they have all the tools for that for you, which is really good if you don't know how to set it all up yourself. And then
It's
they
a pain
also
to set up too on your own, building all that. So I'm glad they finally released those.
Yeah. And on top of that, they've shown a Battle Royale project done with Photon Fusion and their own services. So you can use them even if you are not using netcode for game objects specifically. And they also discussed how these services would probably be available for dots on their dev plates. So keep an eye out for that. Even if you're making something with dots and you want to make sure all of these things are available for you, they probably will be. And then something that, Andrew, you probably have a lot of interest in is the hair strand system.
Oh yeah.
Have you had a chance to play with that yet?
I haven't had a chance to play with it after it crashed my Mac over and over and over again. So I need to re-download, see if anything's been updated.
Okay,
you need to change the PC.
What, this thing right here?
Yeah.
Well, now that it's wintertime, it'll help me save on my heating bills. So yeah, maybe I'll start.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it will do. Yeah, definitely.
So just to say why I even brought it up, on the keynote, they've shown a lot of things that they are working on, and one of them was the hair strand system, specifically while they were talking about the enemies project and how they've improved their shaders, their lighting calculations. They also have a new PCSS shadow in the work, which is percentage closer shadow. I forgot the acronym. It's a new technique. It's a better technique for shadows. Also, capsule shadows. Good stuff, basically. And one of them was the hair strand system, which is still experimental, and it's so experimental that they can't even make a package for it. It's instead a GitHub project that you have to port in, which I found really funny that it was on the keynote, but it is showing that they are working on really impressive things.
Trying to find it in here, but I'm sure
it's
people would
near
just
the
go
end,
watch
I
the whole
think.
keynote and you'll see it.
I think it's really near the end. They show some lions and the the enemies display. So I just wanted to say that it's nice that they are showing what they are working on. I kind of wish that this was on a separate talk from the keynote, and the keynote would focus on something that's more applicable immediately. But it is good that it's there.
Yeah.
If,
Go ahead.
if I had to describe which things from the agenda you should watch and in what order, I'd say the keynote. Then you want the 20 tips in 20 minutes. Then, if you actually are trying to ship anything near this year or the next year, go watch Making Alba, building a performant open world. If you are starting a new project right now or in the next 2 months, go watch the lighting video. It's going to give you a complete primer on how you should construct your lighting experience. If you are interested in making anything that is high in scale of complexity, there is a great talk about dots, scaling mono behaviors and game objects. This is something that a lot of people have trouble with from what I talked to others with. And it's a good one, but it's not for beginners. This one, you already have to know dots before you watch. And what else was from the good ones? If you just want to be enthused about things that are happening in the future, the roadmap to 2023 is great, and the offering character poses with AI is fantastic. This is the one that gets you really hyped up, and you won't get to play with for years, probably. Yeah. Oh, and if you run out of anything to watch in the Unite, go watch the Unreal Fest, because this one also has great things, and it can teach you a lot.
A ton of stuff. So I assume everybody's got a ridiculous amount of stuff to watch. I know I do. I'm gonna go back through and watch. There's at least 4 that I haven't seen in there that I want to see for sure right away. Before we wrap things up for the day, though, I wanted to bring in somebody who's been quiet for a bit to talk about this Nature Manufacturer Humble Bundle that's about to end, because I think it's got like 2 or 3 days left. 3 days,
3 days
38
left.
minutes. It's crazy deal. So you want to just briefly tell everybody what's in here again?
Yeah, we talked with Humble for some time, and finally we decided that we should go all the way out, and there are most of our assets, tools, shaders, everything you want to have for creating environments, creating roads, rivers, lava, and have fun with what Unity can do with foliage right now. Yeah. Even some things, if you use WordStreamer for even open world in Unity, what's quite more troublesome if you don't use asset right now. And also, I have a quick answer to Warley Studios. I saw a question to me. Yeah, we are thinking of something like that in one of our future assets that will come next year.
And that's somebody asked if you're thinking about doing an old growth forest like the Pacific
Yeah,
Northwest.
exactly.
I used to live there. They're big old mossy trees, and all you can see is trees. All you have to do is like just make it so there's a tree every foot and you can't see anywhere. That's basically what I get reminded of every time I go to Washington. I'm like, hey, I can't see anything anymore but trees.
You're missing the
Yeah.
forest for this. I would love to see redwoods. I use all of the Nature Manufacture stuff with my stuff, and I would love to see big giant redwoods.
Yeah, we
I
are
still-
thinking about them, but it's we are still planning to go to America to scan stuff like that.
Yeah. When you
You
come
know-
to do the redwoods, let me know. We'll hang out.
Yeah, Andrew's right near him. Get some forest around you.
So I wanted to ask a question about this. With the Nature Manufacturer assets, can you actually swap the palettes of everything pretty fast? Because making a dynamic fantasy forest out of all of these is sounding really fun, like blue lava, pink trees, etc. Is that doable, or are the colors baked into the assets?
It depends on the assets. Yeah, some assets can be swapped, some assets cannot. Lava would be the easiest one for this is photogrammetry. Yeah, so you would have to take them out and change them in Photoshop or something like that. Mostly the Autumn Valley that you see is the other assets transformed into Autumn ones. Yeah. So yeah, it can be done. I saw many games that use assets that don't look like true world, but they changed them a lot with shaders, with post processing, and stuff like that.
Yeah, the reason I was asking because Sakura Rabbit had an actual portion of her videos shown on the keynote, and it made me chuckle because they were showing the best of the HDRP capabilities, and then they immediately go and show Sakura Rabbit, which, if you don't know, on Twitter, it's a content creator, and she has really great visuals
Yeah,
and
yeah, I know.
visual effects, timeline scrubbing with a lot of like really nice dances, rain, cloth physics, hair physics. It's really good for presentation purposes, and they've showed multiple portions of her projects. And I wanted to bring that up because she had one with a terrain that you can expand between 2 dimensions, like with a bubble that expands and reveals an entire new area. And that one actually is a project that you can get on her fanbox. So I just wanted to bring that up because if you want to get more confident with making HDRP high quality visualizations, you can just go there and see the projects. It's really great. And I think it would work well with the Nature Manufacturer assets.
Thanks. Yeah, that one was great. She showcased it some time ago. Yeah.
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 Another note before we go, I forgot to mention there is one talk in the agenda called Making Persistent Worlds, Managing Player and World State. This one is a fantastic primer on how you actually manage saves, how you actually distribute content in a multiplayer game, what does most of the shenanigan that you see about how to sync and persist and maintain information over time is, why we have player prefs, why is there a JSON utility, why can't you just do one thing or the other. It goes through all the logical steps and reaches a fantastic conclusion in the end, and it's guiding you through the entire thing. I can't stress this enough. If you are new to networking or don't understand how to play, how to save in games, this is what you need to watch. And one more thing that I completely forgot about, but they in the 2023 roadmap, they are finally adding full screen shader graph.
Oh yeah.
Post processing for custom render textures. They even have custom local fog volumes for HDRP. This is the stuff that is already in Unreal, and I've been begging to have it in Unity for years. So yay for the rendering team.
Anybody else got any last second things they want to mention before we wrap up and say goodbye?
Go to my channel. I've been putting out tons of videos. There you go.
Ooh, let's see. YouTube. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Oh, okay.
Might
not be tons of videos.
You asked and he
Might
did
have
it.
sold it a little bit too much.
Yeah,
I've been doing a new thing. I've been doing quick tip videos because some people were asking for very specific things.
Nice.
So
Shorts.
I done so things that people might not use or do. So I done a video on putting version numbers into your games, because if you're not putting version numbers in your games, you're not a real game developer. I'm just going to state it for the record. I saw loads of people in YouTube doing videos on extension methods and all the rest of it. So I went, nobody's talking about enum extensions. So I done a video on enum extensions and how to make an extension to an enum, and then how to produce flags for your enums. And then I done a whole thing on free editor icons that you can just rip off of Unity. There's people know about player prefs and editor prefs, but they don't know about session prefs. So I done a video on how to do session prefs in Unity. So basically, if you want to just have a preference that's for a single session of Unity as you open and close it, I've done a video on how to do that as well. And then in the future, there's loads more coming out, one every week this year. Next week, there's overlays, how to actually produce really good looking overlays using the new UI toolkit, some of the new UI toolkit stuff. And then there's things on selection base and expanding previews, how to swap components easily, how to do helpful Unity debug logs, and loads of other editor stuff is coming out.
Nice. I didn't realize I've been away for a few weeks, a little bit. I didn't realize you've been super active. This is awesome.
I got loads of requests, and I kind of just went, right, I'm going to just produce little tiny videos, just kind of burning through as many as possible. And yes, I know I'm still got to do the assembly definitions video, the video on how to do setup in Unity. So you just press one button and then suddenly your Unity sets up completely. That's in the process of being made. I'm having to dumb down my tool a little bit because it's a little bit complicated. So I'm trying to make it a little bit easier to explain to people. And I know there's others, and they're coming. But, yeah.
Sweet. Oh, looks good. Andrew, did you have anything?
Nothing huge coming out. I've done a couple live streams, still working on the game modules, and I think in I'll have there'll be a lot to talk about in about 10 days or so. Come to my Discord, be ready for that, sign up for my email list. There's going to be some pretty interesting opportunities for Infinity PBR products in about 10 days.
Can you drop a link for your Discord in the chat so we can share that with everybody and let them know?
Yeah. My Discord's a fun place too. There's lots of very fine people, and my mouse stopped working all of a sudden, so you can blame Steve Jobs for that.
Mine's been doing that all day, so not a problem.
It sometimes just goes up and down, but it's back. All right.
Cool. So we'll drop that in there in a second. I just wanted to briefly mention the Ultimate GameDev course has a couple seats left. I think it might fill up this weekend. I'm not completely sure. But if anybody was still interested, you can check it out. It's linked down in the description. Comes with a 3-month Odin license, or 1-year Odin license, 3-month Unity license, a bunch of free stuff, hoodie, and all of Thomas's stuff and my stuff. So if anybody wants that, you can check out the link down there in the description. And then got Andrew's Discord invite. I'm going to drop that in chat for everybody. Hop in and join. And any last words, guys?
Try David's coffee, and I hope we can get to see Jason's story here soon, because he has some really fancy things regarding one-click setup projects. So I want to see you two talking about it for hours.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I hope to get these figured out. I'll talk to you guys all later about setting up a more regular schedule and getting back on track now that I have a place to record again. So we'll I'll probably send out an email and update the stream about that once we've talked and we can figure out a time that works well for everybody. So thanks again, everybody, for coming out, and thank you all for joining us. Please hit the thumbs up button, like, subscribe, share, and all that stuff, and check out all the links and all that. And we'll see you very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.